Emma Clark had always been known as the kindest soul in Maplewood. A small town nestled between rolling hills and dense forests, Maplewood thrived on the simplicity and camaraderie of its inhabitants. Emma, a bright-eyed woman in her early 30s, was the town's beloved librarian. Her days were spent helping children find books, assisting the elderly with their reading glasses, and organizing community events that brought everyone together. Despite her good nature, Emma's kindness often went unappreciated, and sometimes it was taken advantage of. She had a heart too soft to say no, and this led to her shouldering more than her fair share of responsibilities. It wasn't just the extra hours at the library or the countless favors she did for her neighbors. It was the emotional toll that came with being perpetually accommodating. One crisp autumn morning, Emma's best friend, Lydia, walked into the library with a concerned look on her face. Lydia had known Emma since they were children, and she could see the weariness in her friend's eyes. "Emma, can we talk?" Lydia asked, her voice gentle but firm. "Of course, Lydia. What's on your mind?" Emma replied, setting aside a stack of returned books. "It's not about me. It's about you," Lydia said, sitting down at one of the library tables. "You've been running yourself ragged. You're always helping others, but I don't see anyone helping you. When was the last time you did something just for yourself?" Emma sighed, looking down at her hands. "I don't mind, Lydia. I love helping people. It's just who I am." "I know you do," Lydia said, reaching out to hold Emma's hand. "But you need to draw a line somewhere. You're human, Emma, not a saint. You deserve to be taken care of too." Emma nodded slowly, appreciating Lydia's concern, but not entirely sure how to change her ways. Her kindness was an intrinsic part of her identity. How could she simply stop being who she was? A week later, Emma found herself in a predicament that would test her resolve. Mr. Thompson, an elderly man who frequented the library, asked her to help organize a charity event. Emma, as always, agreed without hesitation. But as the days went by, it became clear that Mr. Thompson was relying entirely on her to manage everything. One evening, as she was drafting invitations for the event, her phone rang. It was her mother, calling to invite her over for dinner. Emma looked at the pile of work in front of her and hesitated. She hadn't seen her family in weeks, and she missed them dearly. But the charity event weighed heavily on her mind. "Mom, I'd love to, but I have so much to do," Emma said, feeling a pang of guilt. "Emma, you need a break. Come over, have dinner with us." "Everything else can wait," her mother insisted. For the first time in a long while, Emma decided to put herself first. She set aside her work and went to her parents' house. The warmth and love she felt that evening was a stark contrast to the stress she had been under. It was a small step, but it was a start. The following morning, Emma went to see Mr. Thompson. She explained that while she was happy to help, she couldn't do it all on her own. She suggested involving other community members, distributing the tasks more evenly. Mr. Thompson, though initially surprised, agreed to her plan. As days turned into weeks, Emma began to notice a change in herself. She was still kind and helpful, but she was learning to say no when necessary. She set boundaries, making sure she had time for herself and her loved ones. It wasn't easy at first. There were moments of guilt and doubt, but with Lydia's support, Emma persevered. One Saturday afternoon, as she was enjoying a quiet moment in the library, a young girl named Sarah approached her. Sarah was a regular at the library, always with her nose in a book. "Miss Emma, can I ask you something?" Sarah said, her eyes wide with curiosity. "Of course, Sarah. What is it?" Emma replied, smiling warmly, "Why do you help everyone so much? Doesn't it make you tired?" Emma thought for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "I help because I care about people, Sarah. But I've learned that I need to take care of myself too. Being kind is important, but so is knowing when to say no. It's about finding a balance." Sarah nodded thoughtfully. "I think that's a good idea. My mom always says you can't pour from an empty cup." Emma smiled, touched by the wisdom of the young girl. "Your mom is very right. Remember that, Sarah. It's a lesson worth learning." As autumn gave way to winter, the town of Maplewood saw a new side of Emma Clark. She was still the kind-hearted librarian they all loved, but she was also someone who took care of herself. Her relationships with her friends and family deepened, and she found joy in small moments she had previously overlooked. One evening, as she sat by the fire in her cozy living room, Emma reflected on the past few months. She felt a sense of peace and contentment she hadn't known in years. She realized that by setting boundaries, she wasn't being less kind, she was being kinder to herself, and in doing so, she was able to be more genuinely kind to others. Emma had learned that true kindness wasn't about sacrificing oneself completely. It was about finding the balance between giving and receiving, and in that balance, she found a richer, fuller life. From that day on, Emma's kindness was a beacon of hope and inspiration in Maplewood, a reminder that it's possible to care for others while still caring for oneself. And as she looked out at the snow-covered town, she knew that she had finally found her own happy ending.